24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Middle Path Radio, your Islamic companion.
One particular incident that I was completely distressed over was when two young boys, probably aged around 12 to 13, were forced to snog each other by a gang of youth. I was completely devastated and shocked at the scene. Subhanallah. Furthermore, another sad and a devastating incident took place in Bradford. An 11-year-old schoolboy who recently started his secondary school committed suicide in his own home due to pressure and bullying from school children. Asad, who was attending a secondary school in Bradford, was assaulted by sixth form students, usually the age range between 16 to 18-year-olds at his Bradford school at lunchtime on the day of his death. The governor of the school, which Asad attended, said her nephew had witnessed the assault and back foot upper hit that day. She said also that a video purporting to show some boys telling Asad to lie down and encouraging others to jump on him. Subhanallah. What is really happening to our young people? I want to hear from you. If you are a parent with young children, please call in or text us with your comments and experiences on 07477 080248. What do you think as parents we should do? How can we prevent our children from getting into trouble and gang fights? What can we as a community do to prevent this happening in the future? We are fighting literally amongst ourselves, children, Muslim children fighting amongst themselves. Why? How can we unite? If you are a young person, do you feel you have no alternative but to resort to gang fights and given up on life? Do you feel pressured by peer pressure? Please call in. You don't have to give your name. You can remain anonymous. I will be delighted to hear from you, inshallah. To explore and enlighten us on this, I have a regular Straight Talk contributor, Abu Umair, who is a father of 4 children. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa
Welcome back to the show, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Barakallahu fiqh. So if I can ask you briefly, Baya, can you explain to us exactly what has happened recently amongst our youth, and what have they been involved in, inshallah?
I think you've touched on a very recent story, and it's a very tragic story of Asad Khan, who actually committed suicide in Bradford when he returned from his school. The incident actually, surrounds in the fact that this boy who was actually bullied in the school, and he was actually hesitating to go to attend regular school days. But obviously, as a concerned parent, his mom and his dad was pressurizing him to go to his school and become a learned person and get his GCSEs and climb onto the career ladders and become just like a person, just like any other persons. So there was this pressure from home, and he was receiving a pressure from the school, meaning bullying from all these sixth form kids, and people probably have been laughing at him, jumping on him, calling him names, and it really distracted his studies, his emotions, his thoughts, and he didn't know where to go. So basically, he was in a cornered. In one side you have his school, and the other side his parents was actually pushing him to actually get a good life and get good GCSEs, and he did not have any other ways to actually go about this, and he couldn't actually confide in anyone else. So what he did is actually he came home and he locked himself. He went to the bathroom, came from the bathroom, locked himself in the room. And hours later, his mom was calling him, Asad, where are you? Asad opened the door, maybe come for a meal, just like any other, houses that, when people come from school, we ask them to, have their meal. And because he wasn't opening the door, his mother had to actually break open the door and then find that, he's hanged himself. This is a really, really tragic story. And we find that, if we look at his picture over here, we find that he was a very, nice looking chap, just like any other
living a normal life.
Son of yours, very good looking. And I was looking at some of the comments in Daily Mail, and people were actually sending a lot of condolences and saying that rest in peace and what a nice boy he was.
I mean, he had all his future.
He had all his future.
He was only an 11-year-old. Do you think this is just out of the ordinary? It's one-off incident, or do you think it's quite common? Because there may be other cases we don't know about. It's not just a one-off incident, is it? It's happening, and it's quite across the board, isn't it? It's spread across the country.
I mean, definitely. I mean, it's not an isolated case. For example, like, I also work in the education sector. I'm a teacher myself. And I remember, what we have to do every year, there's an anti-bullying days where we have to actually wear badges which says anti-bullying, against bullying. And we find that, schools across the country, there are anti-bullying days, just like, Father's Day, Mother's Day, birthdays, and Valentine's days. But do they really help? I don't think, these really help, anyone to actually curb, bullying. And this is the latest incident where we find that these patchwork actually not working in the society, and people are going out there. And if you look at one of the recent incidences where, these, killer clowns, these university students actually, masked in killer clowns clothes, and they're going around in Tower Hamlets in Kent and other places with sometimes fake weapons, or sometimes with, real weapons, genuine weapons, and they're actually ripping people apart, just like, those scary movie episodes that we've seen. And so with all these systems in place, if you like, these are all a patchwork. Unless we as a society, we actually address people's mind, address people's thought, give them the genuine, because we live in a godless society, you see. This is the problem. And when you live in a godless society, people are not convinced of anything. They don't have any moral compass. Yes, so if, for example, there is this anti-bullying day or whatsoever, it's just a passing day for them, for the ordinary peoples. Oh yeah, these people are wearing badges. It does not conform to their heart that this is the criteria by I have to actually live my life. This is actually wrong. They're not really trained.
So we have bullying, and we have also fights, gang fights. I'm sure you've seen some of the footages. I have. And these footages, the video clips, are very, very distressing. It's come to a stage now where people want to, these young children, young youth, they want to show off their masculinity, their macho-ness, how basically they're cornering and, 3-4 of them getting together and beating up another fellow young person and torturing him and threatening him and warning him that if he's a snitch, he's going to be dead. He's a dead person. I mean, and some of this, again, is happening in Tower Hamlets and across London, and we've seen this. I mean, is this a new phenomena, do you think? Because when I was growing up in Tower Hamlets, it happened then, but it wasn't that exposed, because obviously we didn't have the benefit of the social media and internet, etc. in the 90s. When I was growing up, there was Brick Lane Mafia, you had Stepney Green Mafia, and the area fighting each other. And just because one boy has moved from one area to another, so for example, one incident in Bow, whereby he was drinking in Bow, so the other boys attacked him saying, why are you coming to our area? Why are you drinking in our area, bruv? And that's exactly the language they used. Why are you drinking our area, bruv? What's your name? Don't come to my area. I mean, what is going on here? I mean, can you just explain? I mean, is this something new?
This is definitely not new. I mean, there has been gang cultures, all along in the past and even at the present as well. We have more funding in the society, more police force has been used, more advertising, more campaigns against, gang culture. But these things are not working. This is what we need to know. These things are not working. In fact, this thing has increased now. Because, for example, before, people would have to actually go into their friends' houses or actually get together in a location to actually exchange ideas, what to do next, what move to make next. Now you can do all these things with social media. You can, gather up in any location, know what's going on, where to attack, who's coming.
So it's more organized and more coordinated nowadays.
More organized, more coordinated. If you, this is not only happening in the street level; it's also happening in the internet level. You have cyberbullying, cyber crimes, and all sorts of things. So, for example, in the past, people would actually drink, but they would drink alcohol like in a hidden corner or something. Now they actually, openly drink alcohol. You'd find, Muslim boys, Muslim girls openly drinking alcohol. I mean, you mentioned about incidents of Muslims. And it's not only gang culture, and it's not only, bullying. You also have people involved in drugs. For example, like, I was really, really astonished to find, after 20 years living in my States, I have this guy who actually sells drugs and smokes drugs, cannabis or whatever. And you can actually smell when he's actually, smoking these things. Drugs, yeah. Comes through our window.
Subhanallah.
And me, my children, my wife can actually smell it. But it never occurred this. But recently, what I found is that one day there was a Muslim girl with all hijab and things. She came and she was sitting by his balcony, and they were talking. And I was really, really sort of like saddened and angry by this sight, thinking that, look, this guy is not going to only actually sell this girl drugs, but has also the potential to misuse that girl. And she's a Muslim girl. And I didn't know what to do at that time. I felt really, really bad about it. Sometimes I thought that, shall I actually follow this girl to her parents' place and explain to the parents, this is what's happening. And it's not the first incident. Another day, 2 girls came then, and they were doing this. And this guy who's actually selling these things, he is known for actually getting sometimes these girls, sometimes black girls, sometimes white girls. And one of the girls got pregnant. And from which, he has now a daughter. Yeah. So these things are really bad. We may think that, our daughters are safe because they're actually wearing the hijab.
Yeah, because they might be deceiving their parents, isn't it? Parents are thinking probably, my daughter is going to university. Their parents are bragging to their community, their relatives. My daughter is going to pursue education. She's doing the law degree, science degree, etc. But is there a deception going on? Do you think?
Definitely, there is a deception, and I think this culture. I'm not actually, for example, with girls, for the Muslim girls, see this thing about this dress code. We may think that they're wearing this headscarf, but is headscarf the only the symbol of Islam? Is it really an Islamic dress? It's not. The headscarf actually goes with the jilbab, and the jilbab is actually a long outer garment that actually drapes all around your body. That together with that is an Islamic dress. But we think that having the hijab, the headscarf on, and then a skin tight trouser, and maybe up to the backbone length of
that's
jacket, it's a hybrid of Western and Islamic dressing.
Subhanallah.
And it's neither Islamic, it's neither, our listeners need to know, it's neither Islamic, neither Western. They're more like a hybrid. It's like a mutated, animal or something. When we see this, mutated animal, we find that, the legs are coming from the belly and the head is coming from the back. It gives me that kind of impression. And this is exactly why we find that, though they have these dress codes, which is a hybrid in nature, their actions are not in line with Islam. It's because often we find that the ilm, the knowledge that they have of Islam is not there.
What about the parents? I mean, what do you think parents have a responsibility to contribute towards the upbringing and the culturing of the children? Because a lot of our parents, especially fathers, unfortunately, in our communities, they're bit neglectful of the duty, in that they're thinking, my daughter or my son is going to school, going to college, let him do his studies, carry on. I'm going to carry on working in the restaurant, come home late. By the time I come home late, the children are asleep, and then in the morning they're going back to school when I wake up.
Yeah,
and I've left it there, and mothers are cooking their food. They're in the kitchen. If they're not in the kitchen, they're in front of the TV watching all these Indian movies. I mean, what is going on?
You see, strangely, let me tell you a lot of stories today. I'm going to tell you a lot of the stories from my own real life.
Just before you do, to listeners and parents, I want to hear from you. Yeah. The comments I've just made, do you think there's some substance in it? Do you think parents are to be held responsible for this? Please call in. Let me have your views as well. Share your views with us. And if you have a question, or if you disagree with what we're discussing tonight, inshallah, call in or text us on 07477 080248. Inshallah.
So for example, as a teacher, I mean, I face these things every day. For example, so when we have a policy in school that when people actually messes around in the classroom, you give him warning. Basically, you give him first warning, second warning, third warning, put his name on the board. And I've been actually trying this on a lot of my students, and every day they don't get it. So
reward and punishment
they don't get it. They don't get it. So you tell them not to touch the computers when in the class. It's a theory time. We'll be working with their books. They'll be going on the computer, playing games. They will override. Emperor is a software basically which actually controls remotely all their workstations. But they'll find a way of overriding that and play like these games that kids play on, or they'll be browsing internet and producing very, very little work. So you give them a lot of warnings, but still momentarily they will listen to you, but then again their craze, their infatuation or their addiction leads them again to actually touch the computers and go into those things. And what happens is that they produce very little work, and these works are very, very lacking of quality. But then again, your next step is to actually call home parents. You'd often find that a lot of these numbers don't actually work. If they purposefully sometimes actually give wrong numbers.
The phone number. They don't work to the
phone numbers don't work.
Akbar.
Phone numbers. One of the phone numbers went directly to the police station. The other phone numbers are dead. One day, this guy actually was bragging on to his colleague, who was sitting next to him. He's saying that, look, if the teacher actually phones my home, my younger sister is going to receive the call, and so I don't care. See, this is what the teachers are up against. So, but this parent I was able to get through. He was Somalian, and he was saying to me that, look, I will have a word. So the next day I phoned him up, and he said, look, I couldn't actually speak to my son because I was actually, when I come home late from work, he's already sleeping. So I didn't get a chance to actually talk to him. So yes, you're right that there isn't enough time. Parents are not giving enough time to their children to actually, ask them, account them, whether they're doing their homework, whether they're actually, doing any Islamic work, reciting the Quran, whether they're actually sitting around with them, maybe discussing an Islamic concept. They're not doing these things.
But what would you say to a father who says, "Look, I'm working 24/7 just to make ends meet, just to put food on the table. The system is there. You got the national curriculum. You got a very good education system. The teachers will teach. I have to do." What would you say to a father like that? I mean, you get a lot of fathers like that. I don't have the time.
This is why the school has become a nanny. It's become a kindergarten. Basically, teachers are trying to actually manage kids rather than teach.
Fulfill
kids.
the role of a father.
Fulfill the role of the father, as well as the police sometimes, as well as I said saying before, border guards and all sorts of things, the social services and things like that. So this father was saying, "Look, I didn't have time," and I understand. It all boils down to sometimes the society that we live in. The society has actually made us, is causing us to work so much day and night to make our ends meet, basically. To go from a very, overcrowded house or a flat to owning a house. And for that, the house prices are so much that you have to work day and night. Sometimes one person is not able to buy a house. So he has to buy a house with his parents, with his wife's income, sometimes with his son's income, and they all have to work 12 hours, sometimes 18 hours a day.
So it's a systematic issue.
So it's
isn't
a
it?
systematic
problem.
issue. And when this happens, where's the time to actually give it to your children, to spend that quality time, to educate your children, to give them the morals, to guide them in the path of life? There's no time.
So do you believe then, from based on your experience, do you believe the system has a role to play here? The system, the government, and the community leaders and people, organizations, various organizations. What role can they play?
Well, the thing is, the system is. I think I fully put the system into account over here. As I said, that the system is actually forcing us to actually work 12 hours or 15 hours a day shift, and sometimes everyone has to work, even the mother and the father, to meet ends meet. Otherwise they can't go out of their one example is they can't go out of the overcrowded housing to a better housing. And because the house prices are so high, who's benefiting from that? The banks are benefiting from that. A house does not actually cost £500,000. If you look at a house, it's only bricks and mortars, nothing more than that. But why is it £500,000? Yeah, either there is no house building going on, or the banks are making sure the houses are that high so that they can actually charge people interest for 30 years on. So it's a systematic problem. Also, for example, the media is at fault over here. Needs to be accounted. So whenever we actually, for example, this...
can you explain how
for example, this Mail Online, Daily Mail. If you actually go underneath this story about this schoolboy who actually committed suicide, you'd find a picture of a woman athlete, let's say a Russian athlete. And it has a beautiful picture, let's say, with a swim dress on. And it says that, look, she's not aware that why people are looking at her. And she has a, very, I'm sorry to say, is a busty, chesty, woman with a swim dress. And that kind of pictures, that kind of media, the songs, rap songs, the pop songs, it's all evoking, these things are all evoking the animalistic instincts in human beings. And these things are not helping the peoples. So what happens that, for example, like I myself in my home, I don't actually have the TV. I was thinking to myself that why should I give subscription? I don't have a TV.
How do you manage?
And I don't have a Sky TV.
Some of my listeners will say this is very strange.
No, because I'm thinking to myself, I was kind of like I was sitting behind TV like for 6 hours a day or 7 hours a day sometimes. Yeah.
And you have children in your house.
I have children myself. And I'm thinking, why am I paying subscription to something that is wasting my time? There's no benefit in that. If I wanted to actually read news or get up to date with this, I've got newspapers and things. So basically, I stopped watching TV. I made this whole family stop watch TV because it's not doing any good.
But how can you just explain to our listeners how the TV indoctrinates? How does it really? How is it a disadvantage to children, for example?
As I said, with the soap operas, before it was the EastEnders. Now with all these, gaming, advertisement about gaming culture, advertisement about all these scary movies that I was talking about, which people are mimicking as killer clowns. So it's basically giving people to satisfy their instinct in a raw way, in uncontrolled way. There's no moral training going on from these media outlets. It's basically unleashing the animalistic instincts in human beings. So if you look at any comedy shows, these comedy shows are all about filthy, it's about nudity or women, making jokes about women or that kind of thing. See, and it's not helping anyone. But the thing is, you may actually cancel watching TV in your home. But because of the surge in social media nowadays, you can't actually ban someone from having a phone. You get access to everything in a phone. Now things are personalized to you. My wife was saying the other day to me that accidentally we mustn't click anything in YouTube. When you click anything, let's say any sort of like any bad images or videos that are filthy in nature, the whole IT industry personalizes all these videos to you, and they all come up. Yeah, they personalize it to you, and they are all advertising to you. So they are encouraging you to hit this, click that, click this, you see. And God knows where this chain will lead you to.
Subhanallah.
And your children have access to these, mobile phones. So they can't really hide. So yes, the online media, the social media, the media outlets, the society around us are all to be blamed for what's happening to our children. Because I find when I go to school, this people coming up, attending the class with red eyes. They're really, really tired.
Yeah.
They can't actually work because they're so tired. They're like, half like intoxicated. This is how they seem. This is how they act sometimes. Because God knows what they're doing throughout their night. They could be like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in social media.
Jazakallah khair. This is just to clarify, this is no way to say that I'm generalizing that every single young people is bad. You have very, very good young people out there, mashallah, practicing Islam, very devout, very committed to the deen, and mashallah, and on a dunya level, they're doing very well. But I have something for Mamun by now. Abu Umair, basically, we've discussed some of these the negativities of our children, our youth. But what would you say to those parents whose children are actually doing extremely well in education? Yeah, they've got 9, 10 A stars, and they've gone into Oxford and Cambridge, but they don't pray, they don't fast, and they have funny beliefs about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But from a dunya perspective, from dunya, they've done very well.
You see,
what advice would you give to these parents?
You see, you just actually triggered another story. Yes, there are a lot of parents out there who's got like 11 A stars.
Yeah, they're very proud of their children.
10 A stars or A's or B's, and they're very proud of their, children. But the thing is, these children, when they get into their career, when they have these high-flying jobs, you'd find them in the pub. Yeah, you find them that they've been pressured into going to pubs sometimes, and then they're pressured into socializing with girls. Then you find that they are sleeping, and
some of them don't believe it. They're agnostic. They become atheists
and become promiscuous. So I was actually talking to another teacher yesterday, and I was saying that what are the examples in your school? He goes, there was this girl who he actually taught from year 8, and now she's in sixth form, and she's Algerian, and the thing is, now because she was studying philosophy and all that, she changed her belief now. Allah. Before she used to actually wear hijab and all these things, she was very Islamic minded, but now she's questioning about Islam, and she stopped praying and all this. And she was saying that, she wants to, however, the funny thing is she's saying that she wants to go to Oxford, she wants to study Islam, but not from the perspective of actually, practicing it, but to find more about it.
Be critical.
Yeah, be critical. So all these studies about curriculum like philosophy and all that, it actually can take people away from the deen. And I think parents should never be satisfied that, their children are doing well, because your children could be doing well now, but when they're in the 2-3 years or 5 years down the line, they could be someone totally different. They could be clubbing, they could be going to, as I said, to the pub.
I've got some text that I'm just going to quickly read out. One text says, how much can we really do in this society? This liberal society teaches you to live life to the max, and we are buying into it. What is the solution from Islam regarding bullying? Well, we can come to that a bit later on. Another text, it says, Salams, Jazakallah khair for raising awareness about bullying. It's such an important issue. Do you really think we can blame the parents, as society and school is a bigger teacher? In fact, parents these days are afraid of their own children. What do we expect from parents? That's a good question. Because of, I think, if you can, Abu Umair, if you can explain that, because a lot of the parents are actually afraid of their children purely because of the repercussions and the consequences of disciplining their children, they don't want to get involved with the social service, for example. Because these days, if you discipline children, I'm not saying hitting, even shouting at them maybe sometimes, or rebuking them, admonishing them, could result in an investigation by the social services. So with this kind of legislation around, what can parents do?
You see, parents have parents' hands are tied and they can do very little sometimes. Again, another story actually, comes to my mind. This boy...
You've got a lot of stories.
Yes. In our data system, it says that he's got social, emotional and mental issues.
Right.
Yeah? Meaning that he's got emotional issues. Sometimes these statements are really neither here, neither there.
Right.
They're just there. So when I phoned his parents up, and she said to me that, look, when he comes home, he doesn't talk to me. So sometimes parents are really helpless. There's this no communication between a mother and a son, or a father and a son. They can't, control their kids anymore. So you, as a teacher, you call home, and the father goes, look, I'm trying my best. Another father goes, look, I've actually banned him from, computers, banned him from his PS2, but, I can't do any more.
And is that something really beneficial? Is that really constructive? Banning children, and that's the other extreme, isn't it?
You see, the thing is, I think the biggest problem of living in a non-Islamic society is that because the society is not actually based in an intelligent and the society did not answer one main problem. If there is a God, should we abide by God's law? In a liberal society, it says that, look, if you want to believe in God, that's your choice. Allah, that's your choice.
If you don't want to believe in
God, if you don't want to believe your choice, that's your choice as well. So when you have that kind of premise, there is no strict moral discipline, or adherence to any moral etiquettes or actions, or you don't have any criteria of actions. And when you don't have this criteria of actions or any moral concepts in society, there is no conviction. There's no adherence. There's nothing to believe in, nothing to actually seek for in terms of achieving a higher goal, if you like. Like for a Muslim, we actually please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We abide by His rules and regulations. If, for example, wish for your brother what you wish for yourself. These kind of concepts are not there. If you save a human being, you have saved a life, the whole nation. We're doing
the opposite. We're stabbing each other. We're killing each other.
We're stabbing each other because this society, the liberal society, don't have these concepts because it has compromised on the biggest fundamental question: if there is a God, is there a God or not? They said it's up to you. So when it's up to you to decide whether there is a God or not, then that means that there's no moral conviction. And when there's no moral conviction in society, no one is living a moral life. And when you don't live by a moral life, you can just do anything. You just do whatever your heart desires, whatever your pleasure desires.
And we move in.
Nothing is controlling.
We sleepwalk into this liberalism, don't we? We become very free. We don't take care of our children in terms of responsibility.
Right. As a teacher, they talk about professionalism. Oh, you have to be really professional. You have to, you mustn't touch a child. You mustn't. I was actually, I'm an ICT teacher, and I accidentally touched a girl's hand while I was trying to show her something on the computer while she was holding the mouse.
Yes, it was accidental.
Accidental. But that girl was being emotional and she complained. And I was told that, look, you must stay away, and all that. But the whole system, funny enough, allows boys and girls to manhandle each other, wrestle with each other in the classroom, in the playground. Girls who have reached adolescent. Boys who have actually grown, have become grown men. Girls who have become grown women. They can all wrestle. They can actually touch each other up. It doesn't matter. But you as a teacher, you can't do this. Why can't a teacher do it? And a boy, unrelated boy, and a girl can do it. The whole society is messed up. The whole concept of morality is flawed. And this is why we have this problem. This is why you have a problem of the media, you have the problem of the system, and this is why nothing's working. Everything is a mishmash, if you like.
Jazakallah khair. So far, we have discussed the issues about the problems of our youth. What do you think? I mean, do you think that we as parents have a lot to play from early age of the children's upbringing, or should we leave that to our experts, our teachers, our school and universities? Please call in on 07477 080 and let us have your question or comments on this issue, inshallah. And tell us, inform us about any experiences you've had. You may be a young person, you may be under a lot of peer pressure, and you may be going the wrong way in life. Call in. You may wish to remain anonymous and tell us your experiences, inshallah. We would be delighted to hear from you. How can we prevent our children from getting into crime, drug abuse, and alcohol? If you can, advise our children who are listening and our parents.
I mean, as I was actually driving to this station over here, I was looking at a car, and this car was full of Muslim boys. I think it was Muslim boys, and they were really having a fun time. So it evoked the idea in my mind that, look, these could be, they're listening to music, they're having a nice time. What is nice time for youngsters? Nice times for youngsters is actually going and watching a movie, maybe having a car ride, maybe talking about girls, maybe. So,
as a father, what advice would you give them? Because you've had children growing up.
So the thing is, like, Muslims are living, as I said, in a
we're
society.
Living a very difficult.
We're living a difficult life, and this is not only a advice to Muslims; it's also an advice to non-Muslims
absolutely.
As well. And because the society hasn't taken a concrete position, if there is the creator behind this universe, then should we not abide by creator's rules and regulations? Not only rules and advice, if you like, or guidelines, or directions in life. The society hasn't answered this question. So the society is actually accountable for that. It cannot actually lead people in a vague way and sort of like ask people to actually live in a walk in dark, if you like. So this is why we cannot actually trust the society or its institutions to teach our children and fix our children in terms of drugs, alcohol, crime.
So what can we offer them? What can we offer, as you said, non-Muslims even? So can we be a beacon of justice and beacon of fairness and morality? I mean, how do we achieve these things?
I think we need to see that there is the society, wherever you go, even in Muslim countries as well, is an ungodly society in the sense that secularism is the rule of the law. I mean, is the law of the land, if you like. Secularism basically means that, put God aside and his guidelines and his etiquettes, his morals aside. Humans will come up with his own laws.
Yeah,
and
I understand that, but what advice? I mean,
in terms of advice
to parent, practical actions they can do.
In terms of
some of the listeners are eager to know how you.
It's basically to actually make our kids engaged. Not to leave our kids in the streets, unaccompanied, let them do whatever they want. Is to have them indoors, make them engaged, get them to do some work. So if they're coming from schools, get them to engage in, homework, for example.
So engage in quality time with the children.
Engage with quality time indoors. Make sure they're doing their homework. Ask them about their homework. Ask them about what they've done in school. Get them to memorize Quran. Get them to actually sit in a sort of like a gathering in the home. Have a weekly circles, Islamic circles, discuss about news and views out there, and come and give solutions from Islam as well. If parents don't actually do this, first of all, the parents themselves, they have to change. You'll find a lot of parents, they are clueless about Islam. You see, we live in a society, because it's a liberal society, there are liberal currents, if you like. It's like if you live in a very hot country, the strength of the sun can actually make you go dark. I mean, I remember I was in Dubai and I was under the sun, 40 degrees Celsius. My daughters, they were about 11 years of age, at that time. They became pitch black. I don't know, they got sunburnt, I was told later on. They became black. So if we're living under a liberal society with the liberal values, don't think that we are safe, in terms of all this promiscuous behavior, drunkenness, alcohol abuse, drugs.
So are you saying that your parents should also get involved in learning about the din? Some of them, they haven't got a clue. So is it too late for them to learn? They may say
it's never too late. You see, they say that you can learn till you're,
cradle to grave.
Cradle to grave as well.
Yeah.
So they need to change themselves. They need to engage basically in
learning and understanding.
And not only learning, because a lot of Muslims learn. This is the problem. Muslims only learn. If you look at Nuri Haguri or Nuri Telugi, this woman, Muslim woman who actually starred in this Playboy magazine.
Astaghfirullah.
This is the first Muslim girl to actually her photo had been taken on a Playboy magazine. But now what happened is that Playboy magazine has stopped publishing nude women, objectification of women. So now they said that we're not going to do it. So they had this, Muslim woman. And, but this Muslim woman, she was, strangely enough, she had a TED Talk. TED Talks?
Yeah.
And she was talking about how she is not sort of like oppressed. She is actually, it's her own will that she wears hijab, and how she is actually, how hijab actually empowers her. She was talking about that. So she was talking the benefits about this Islamic dress and about her belief, the benefits.
That's interesting. So what you're saying is that just
I'm,
learning the deen is not good enough. It has to be implemented, and it has to be a way of life. Is that what you're saying?
Learning the deen, not even way of life. There's a different, I'm going to break down what way of life means. Learning the deen is not enough. A lot of Muslims learn the deen, they abide by it. That's not enough.
Right.
In terms of like following and thinking that Islam is good for me. You need to be an ideological person. You need to be they say, they actually misuse the name Islamist. Yeah. You have to become an ideological Islamic thinker and a practicing person. So not only you see the benefit of Islam, but you actually take Islam to others. It's like you want to actually cross the river. You swim the river. The currents are flowing in one direction. If you stay idle, the currents will take you away. You need to make sure that you cross the river, countering the currents.
So
here I mean the currents are liberal values.
Sure. So because I'm also a father, I have 4 children. So
so basically,
many of my listeners
what I'm trying to
similar situation as me.
Yeah.
So
what I'm trying to say to you that if you don't get involved in Dawa, Islamic Dawa activities, if you don't actually propagate Islam, if you don't understand Islam as an intellectual way of life, as a rational, intellectual, and Islam that it is actually it's a fitting to human nature. If you don't rationally, intelligently believe in that, and if you don't have that conviction, and if you're not propagating that to the society around you, to your friends and families and your neighbors, then you'll be swayed away.
I'm sure some of our listeners are very keen and eager to know how successful you've been. Obviously, without going too much into details, how successful would you say you've been, alhamdulillah, with your children?
I mean,
because I understand,
mashallah, from a young age.
What did you do?
From a young age, basically, I was involved in Dawa activities as well.
Alhamdulillah.
And I am actually, by me being present in here talking about
Islam, you're involved,
alhamdulillah. I am involved. And so were my
So how difficult was it with your children? Yeah.
No, because they were young. Because Islam says, teach your children about prayers when they're age of 7.
This is
so that means that teach them everything about Islam
from early age.
From early age.
Right.
If you want to actually make sure they wear hijab when they are 18, get them when they're age 7.
Absolutely.
If you want them to actually lead an Islamic life, take them to circles, get them involved in Dawa. So when my daughters actually grew up, older sisters took them on board and got them involved in Dawa. As I said, it's not good enough that you just, abide by Islamic dressing, eat halal food, or you don't lie, you have good manners, but you have to be an ideological thinker. What I mean by that is, if you look at the word, the kalima, the articulation of our faith,
the shahada,
shahada, it says La ilaha illallah. There is no other deity or lawgiver or policy giver or guider except Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger. You have to negate, you have to oppose any values that is not coming from Islam. If you don't do this, then your beliefs will slowly sway away. You will be climatized because you're living under the liberal society. So just like the sun that makes you pitch black, if you're in Dubai, because you got sort of like what do they say, skin what skin tan or whatever.
Yeah.
We are living under these liberal values. Today or tomorrow, if you don't actually propagate this thing intelligently, then you will be actually swayed away into their deen, basically.
I remember when I was my boy was 5-6 years old, I was personally trying to be a role model to him. So he was seeing an example at home. Now, if I had deficiencies in my character, then obviously he will pick that up. So as a parent, as a father, I needed to be a role model to my son. And alhamdulillah, now he's 15. He mashallah is taking Islam seriously. It's because he could see an example in me. Now, if I'm not a good example, as a parent, I'm neglectful. He sees I'm swearing at the wife, I'm swearing at the children. What kind of an example am I giving?
You see, sometimes parents give an example themselves at home, but children need example at home, example when they're outside. They need to be placed in the right environment wherever they are. So with my daughters, now they have friends who are also Islamic, Dawa carriers. Yeah, so that's the thing. So sometimes parents may think that, okay, I'm a good Muslim, so I expect my children to be good Muslims. Be a proper Muslim unless we actually negate and oppose anything that are un-Islamic. So this girl who actually whose photographs was taken for the first time, a Muslim girl, in the Playboy magazine, although she was really confident about her belief, she was really happy with her belief, she didn't see the other side. The side that, look, this Playboy magazine is a magazine that used to be, and is now, is a misogynist magazine. Is a magazine of men's magazine that objectifies women. I mustn't give, by my picture being on that magazine, fuel to that magazine, which can actually sell more, and get more money. She should have really opposed it. And there were a lot of critics who actually opposed her and actually criticized her from being on there.
So no doubt for the youth, killing or stabbing another Muslim brother is no doubt needs to be opposed. This is where they can start. That's the starting point.
Not only
change.
Not only bullying needs to be opposed, cyber crime needs to be opposed,
gang crime, stabbing,
promiscuity needs to be opposed, but
drugs.
Any values that does
other than Islam
has to be, sort of like opposed and interacted with in terms of actually convincing that this is wrong. And if your sons and daughters are not doing this, then they will fall prey under these liberal values, liberal society. They will fall prey today or tomorrow. So, for example, like if they don't fall, their children will fall. Your grandchildren will fall victim of these liberal values, basically. So they'll become just like the Bulgarians or the Bosnians who don't have the religion anymore.
And is it too late for some of our youth? Because some of our listeners who are young people may be thinking, I've done so much haram, so much bad things in my life, there is no turning back for me. What advice would you give somebody like that? Is it too late for him or her to change?
I mean, this is never too late. The thing is, I look at it this way. As long as you have life, you have a chance. Once your life ends, your chance is gone. So if you have 1 minute in your life left, if you make, tawbah, which is repentance, and a true repentance is that you acknowledge that you have done wrong, and you are convinced that, and you take oath that you're not going to actually follow the same route again, same path, make the same sin again, and you actually ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if you have 1 minute, then Allah will wipe out all your past sins.
Can you-
But don't take advantage of that, because you never know when your death will come. Your death may come,
Subhanallah.
accidentally, without any notice, either from a car accident or from any other things, basically.
I mean, can you give some examples of our young people being role models for future role models? Because from Islamic perspective, from Islam, I mean, can you think of any examples where young people have made changes?
Definitely, young people have made a lot of changes to, for example, living here in London. 30 years ago, women didn't used to actually wear hijab and jilbab. I think people who actually participated in, Dawa work, in group work, these are our role models. These sort of groups are our role models. They are the ones who came up with the idea that, look, we need to wear jilbab and hijab. These are the people who says that, interest is haram. These are the people who says that, look, we need to take Islam, we need to challenge with Islam and show the falsehood of non-Islamic way of life. And they were debating in universities, they were debating with, high profile, individuals. And this showed us sort of like a model for us that Islam is not taken for a ride. Islam can be a challenging subject for us, and we can challenge with Islam. And these are our role models. So society has changed a lot. It's because of these, Dawa, Dawa activities.
In terms of organization, Islamic organizations and community leaders and masjids, do you think they also have a role to play in young people's lives? And what can they do? What advice would you give them?
You see, the thing is,
very briefly,
because these institutions are sort of like, because they are institutions, one of the girls' schools in Nottingham was just actually shut down. Well, they've been asked by officers to shut down.
Subhanallah.
Because
what was the reason?
So when they investigated, they said that, look, you've got these books, radical books, or you're saying that, being gay is not, is wrong. So these sort of things. So mosques do have actually a role, but there is a limited.
It's very difficult what they can do.
Living under this liberal society, who have actually, you see, even Christianity is not spared. Christianity used to believe that, for example, like homosexual, they used to have a view on that, but their views is also curbed.
But I think organizations as a whole, I think to an extent, are failing our youth. Because when I was growing up, there was to be a lot of Islamic discussion, talks, events that we could go to, youth centers. There were a lot of discussion. Our people were out and about. It doesn't matter. I know the government legislation and the draconian legislation there is, but inshallah, if we speak the truth and if we remain constructive in what we say, as organizations, the Islamic organizations should get together, become united, and inshallah work towards helping the youth. What do you think? I mean,
I think the youth needs to be given space and the time, and however we can within the constraints of the laws of this country. We need to explain people's Islam, and I think it's because of the absence of Islam, absence of certain concepts in Islam, because they are not being discussed. People are taking the wrong line with them. And we need to talk more about Islam in our mosques and in our families and in our communities, and we shouldn't be shy away from that.
Because mosques, what they just do the 5 daily prayers, and they're not opening doors to the youth to come in. They're basically closed in that sense. Do you think they could do more as well? All the mosques and Islamic centers in around the country, they could do a lot more. What can they do?
So first of all, there has to be learning should take place in our own homes by our parents. Our parents need to change first. Their ideas about Islam has to completely change for the good. They need to see Islam as a way of life, and it's a supreme way of life over all other ways of life. Anything that is not from Islam, it's actually oppression. And Allah says, subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if you do not actually follow the guidelines of Islam, you are actually oppressing yourself. So we need to see as that.
So we shouldn't be afraid of rizq and working 7 days a week. We should take it easy, isn't it? I mean, we should reduce our hours and try to spend more time with our children.
Definitely. So our parents have a role. Our youngsters, our Muslim youth have a role, to show as a role model to other children as well. Our institutions like our mosque, they have a role. They shouldn't just actually have prayer sessions, because what we do when we go into the mosque, we just go there, just do our sajdas, and we come.
And that's it. Yes, that's correct.
We don't even actually shake anyone's hand.
Subhanallah.
We don't actually sit with anybody and discuss with them, how's your day been? What have you been up to? Are there any difficulty? We don't discuss any issues with them. We just robotically go to the mosque, do our bowing down, and we come out. And that is not the purpose of this community gathering of this mosque. It's not that was not the purpose. The purpose of a mosque is a place where actually Muslims find, peace and tranquility. They discuss their issues. They get answers. They get solutions from there. They get help and advice. But these things are not happening, and this is why our mosques are, not full as we would like them to be. This is why we find that our youngsters are not actually attending the mosques. It's only those people who are, old and frail. Alhamdulillah, there's a lot of people are coming in, but it's not as much as we would like them to.
Absolutely.
Be. See?
Yeah,
that's the thing. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Jazakallah khair for joining us tonight on this show. A big thank you to all of you for joining us, inshallah. Jazakallah khair to Brother Abu Umair for joining us and taking your time out, inshallah.
Okay, Jazakallah khair.
Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Rahmatullahi.
Middle Path Radio, your number one online Islamic talk station.